Hey, this is James Pelton, and you might notice this is not my normal setup. So, this is not my normal background. My audio is probably really terrible. I'm in Colorado, and I was actually planning on making this a non crypto trip where I didn't even think about crypto. But AmpliFi is a project that I've had to reschedule on several times. And so, I just wanted to respect them and get this live stream out for them, even though I'm not at home. Okay, so not ideal conditions, but we make do with what we have. So, and it's always fun when you're on vacation, just trying to find a place away from the kids. Let me know in the comments who has kids, and it's always fun as a YouTuber trying to find places where they aren't in our little Airbnb. So, project today we want to talk about is AmpliFi, and hopefully the team is hopping on here soon. There we go. Because I am excited to talk about this one. We've had to reschedule a few times. What I need from you guys as we get started is please hit the like button and then kind of follow along. The URL here is perpetualyield.io. So I need you guys to hit the like button and then kind of follow along. Go look at the website, and then we'll kind of get started here. So we've got the amplifier here. Hey, thanks for joining today. I appreciate having you.
Yeah, no problem. Thanks for having me, and I'm excited to be here today.
Yes, I was just telling people I'm actually in Colorado, so it's not my normal studio setup, but we find a way to make it work, right? That's what we do.
There we go. What are you doing in Colorado, if you don't mind me asking?
Just vacation. So just we like to get out to like Estes Park a few times a year. Just it's snowing pretty bad right now, so just kind of hanging out inside, and there's a hot tub, and the kids, we just enjoy getting away. So we homeschool, so the kids can kind of do their school while we're here. So it's been a fun time so far.
Good stuff, man. Good stuff.
Yeah, but I do miss my office.
Yeah, I hear.
I'm always excited to get back. So let's go ahead and Sam, good to see you. Graham, good to see you guys. We got the regular crew hopping on. Good to see all of you. Please do hit like as we get going here. Amplifier and Froggy, could you guys start out with just a quick introduction of you guys and a little bit of your background?
Yeah, happy to. So I was actually intending to join on the Chief Alchemist account, which is like my main Twitter account. So I was a little surprised when I popped up under the Amplifier account. But yeah, my background's in, I worked before I got into DeFi. I worked in management consulting, primarily focused on like digital transformation of large financial systems like FIS, Deutsche Bank, and things along those lines. And then I got into DeFi. I mean, like I've been in crypto for many years. I had a lot of Bitcoin back in the day, fumbled my bag. Me and Froggy kind of were in Miami a while ago and kind of taking a look at how all these passive income protocols have worked historically, and like what flaws we've seen in them, and how we can fix that. And that's kind of how AmpliFi came to be.
Yeah. Hey, James, just wanted to say good morning. Thanks for having us. So everyone, I'm Froggy. If you don't know me, my name in real life is Chris. My background is previously in law, doing risk management and corporate compliance. I left that area about 1.5 years ago, ended up going into crypto full time, and on kind of the project management side of things. I've been in crypto since probably about 2018 or so. And then I just kind of became very obsessed with it, admittedly, to the point that it's pretty much consumed my entire existence.
Okay, yeah, I know how that goes.
Yeah, right. So, pretty much as Chief was saying, we sort of conceptualized this idea around providing a project that could really offer passive income to individuals that had already pretty much been burned during the bull run, right? They had been burned with passive income protocols that were promising, they love to use the word sustainable yield, and you could pretty much tell right on their face that was an outright lie. And so we put our heads together, a group of us here in Miami, and we sort of determined a way that we could pretty much create a project from the grassroots, and then over time through the implementation of a variety of DeFi modules using very specific or specialized tokenomics that we could actually work towards ultimately achieving 100% what you might call organic or external yield. So, full disclosure, we're not quite there yet. I think everyone knows that it's an ever evolving thing that we're constantly building towards. But the other option was, bringing on a VC, funding the platform with, several millions of dollars, and then having this kind of insane vesting schedule, and having the VC sort of offload onto everyone's heads. We figured that a safer way to do it, or a more idealistic way for us to do it, would be to bootstrap it from the grassroots. So yeah, that's kind of a short introduction of the project.
Okay, yeah, and I love that. I'm always a big fan of bootstrapping rather than taking venture capital. That's how I've always run all my businesses. So I love that. So my screen sharing is not working. Okay, this is the beauty of not being in my office and live video. But I want everyone to go to perpetualyield.io, and it says the first decentralized annuity. So could you start out by maybe explaining to people what is an annuity? That's something that people might not be familiar with.
Yeah, sure. So an annuity in traditional finance is basically a traditional financial product that you would use or you would purchase, which is supposed to pay you dividends or pay you essentially income up to the end of your life when your ordinary income has either run out, or you're reliant on something like Social Security or your 401k or your pension, and it's simply not cutting the cost anymore, or it's not really cutting it anymore. We adopted the term annuity, and granted, there are a variety of disclaimers on our Git book that say, hey, this is not a traditional financial product as you would consider it. This is not regulated by the SEC or the CFTC or anything like that. However, the idea behind this concept of the annuity as a sort of DeFi-centric product is that it will continue to pay out yield for the life of the protocol, and the life of the protocol could, in theory, be infinite, so long as certain things are maintained and the individual pays the monthly fee for an amplifier and things like that. Funny little side story for a moment is we were back here in Miami, all working on the project. Our developer on our version 1 contract gets everything. The version 1 was actually called the annuity. And so the developer codes everything up in probably 2 or 3 days. And he's sitting there, and it's probably 3 a.m. one day. And he goes, you know what's so strange? He's like, I just wrote this contract. I don't even know what an annuity is. And we said, well, you kind of just made one. So we explained it to him a little bit. But yeah, no, it's definitely distinguished or distinct from a traditional annuity. But the general concept is still kind of the same. You put forth an investment of some. I'm not supposed to say the word investment. You put forward an allocation of capital up front or at the outset, and the idea is that it does build up and generate returns over time. Okay,
very good. Yeah, the SEC is frequently on these live streams, so you have to be really careful. Don't use that word investment. Use sacrifice or something like that.
All right, Gary Gensler, sorry.
No, you're good. I'll put in a good word for you, and I think you'll be all right. So can you kind of explain maybe, so how does this work exactly? Maybe from like the start of not an investor, but the start of someone's journey into AmpliFi, and then how payments are paid out, and what kind of returns people can expect from that.
Yeah, so basically, like when we started, the only way really to partake in the protocol was buying an amplifier, right? And then you could fuse that for validator rewards from the crowdsourced Ethereum validators backing the ecosystem, right? Since then, we've now launched liquidity mining, staking, and transistors, which kind of act like a mini amplifier and only require 6 tokens. So that's really like the users can partake in the AmpliFi ecosystem through liquidity mining, and that's adding LP to the uni pair, and we have a liquidity mining program that you get AmpliFi rewards for providing that liquidity. staking is ideal for smaller holders or people who want to earn emissions on their spot bag, right? Where there's not, you don't have, like, I guess, the risk in some ways of an amplifier, but you don't also have the upside of an amplifier. The emission, I think we target, it's target rate of 338% for the staking pool, but the pool is currently oversubscribed. So I think right now people are getting like 18 last I checked, or something in that realm, which isn't nearly as great as an amplifier, right? But at the same time, you can unstake at any time. There's no fees, and that was a pretty lucrative addition to the protocol. Is over, like, currently 10,500 AmpliFi tokens are staked. Transistors were when AmpliFi hit around $200 a token, or 204, I think it was its high. We started coming to the conclusion that amplifiers were no longer affordable to the average user, right? And we wanted to introduce something that someone with $500 or so could participate in the AmpliFi rewards, as well as down the road kind of have a say in governance and things like that. So that's really where we're at right now. I don't know if you wanted to add to that, Froggy, at all.
Yeah, great overview. I think the one thing that I would add is that the idea behind these products as the sort of flagship is actually relatively straightforward. So an individual would look at a product that an amplifier, let's say, for example, that's offering 159% annualized yield on an amplifier. They would say, and although that is in the native token, they would say, hey, wait a second, that's not sustainable. And we would certainly agree with that. So there's kind of a dual or a two-pronged approach to handling that. And the one aspect of it is that as each consecutive module is released and deployed, each of those modules constitute an additional external source of revenue for the protocol, meaning a non-pyramid or a non, quote unquote, like Ponzi type of enhancement in terms of generating real revenue, both to the treasury and to holders themselves. And so the idea is that with each one of those that are deployed, as those then begin to start generating actual revenue from other areas in DeFi, we then begin to incrementally scale back the yield on these amplifiers, on these transistors, on the staking pool, on the liquidity mining pool. The second part of it, I have completely just blanked on. But it is essentially, on one hand, we reduce, it pretty much is that as we introduce new modules, the yield is reduced on the others. Oh, I know what it was. The second part of it is that a portion of the yield that is accrued from these, let's say, fees or revenue generated by the platform on these additional modules is actually going to be directed or is already being directed to holders that have amplifiers. A holder that has a transistor is limited at present to only earning yield on the native token, whereas an individual who has an amplifier is going to be able to earn ETH yield on any of the modules that are introduced. And so it's from that respect that an amplifier is going to be considered, or is considered, and will remain the flagship of the protocol, right? Because it's essentially what we describe on our website as an amplifier is a gateway, or is a necessary gateway to external yield. Now, certainly, you could say that contributing to or purchasing a transistor indirectly supports the protocol through its larger mission of adding things like increasing validator acquisition and so on and so forth. But the amplifier is most certainly the flagship product. The other thing that's probably quite noteworthy to add is that the amplifiers can decay. And so this is something that is very rarely seen in other projects. Typically, with any other kind of quote unquote passive income project in the past, they would advertise a certain yield, and they would just give you that yield. And so the problem with that was that you had the earliest holders that were able to scoop up vast quantities of tokens for very cheap. And then the protocol began to kind of view those individuals, or the remaining holders began to view those individuals as these sort of net liabilities to the health and sustainability of the project rather than assets. And so, or even sources of revenue generation, right? Like they were constantly taking more out. They were constantly extracting more than they were introducing into the protocol. So they were not a value add. They were sort of a value deterrent or something along those lines. So we created this decay mechanism, and the decay mechanism essentially is structured, without going into too many technicals. I don't want to bore anyone who's listening, but it's essentially structured that if you decay, or rather if you claim frequently, or if you claim, pretty much frequently. If you claim frequently, you're going to be essentially de-risked. Someone might call it penalized, but the reality is it might seem like a penalty to the user who's doing it a lot, which might be trying to swing trade the token, but it's actually a net benefit or a safety mechanism to all of the other holders. And so it's actually sort of a built-in risk management add-on that protects users from liabilities that other users may kind of pose to the health and safety of the protocol, not just today, but in the long term. And so, Chief, I think you might remember the number offhand, but I think so far the project's been alive for probably about 90 days, maybe a little more or less at this point. There have been 1,700 decays, I want to say, on amplifiers, and so each of those decays automatically decreases the future yield of that amplifier by 15% logarithmically. So it'll never go to zero. There's no maximum cap on the number of tokens that a person could earn. But if you say, let's say you claim every single day for a month, your annualized yield is going to be so low due to logarithmic kind of de-risking that it's really not going to be worth it for you to claim, because your percentage rate or your APY or APR is going to be so low at that point that it simply wouldn't make sense to do so. The second aspect of decay is what we call linear decay. And linear decay functions in a way that if you claim prior to day 72 after having created the amplifier, you'll be decayed starting from a 9% penalty in the native token down to 0. So if you claim on day one, let's just say week one, you're going to have probably an 8.5% penalty on the native token. It's not going to take any money out of your wallet. It's not like it's going to take USDC or ETH out of your wallet, but it will give you fewer tokens than you would otherwise have received. And then so if you wait, let's say 70 days, you're probably only going to be penalized, let's say 0.2 or 0.4% on the native token. So that's kind of the secondary way that the project is de-risked from claiming too frequently. And so every single time someone claims, there's actually the additional benefit to the protocol that those penalties in the native tokens are actually redirected to our deployer wallet. And from that deployer wallet, we then create new amplifiers. And you might say, wait a second, the deployer wallet is taking rewards. What are you doing with those rewards? Well, no. An amplifier has a monthly fee, and albeit a low monthly fee, there's a monthly fee nonetheless. And so what we do is we create new amplifiers from these tokens that have been accrued from early claims, and we don't pay the fee on them. And so any of the rewards that would have been accrued are simply forfeited, and then the amplifier dies. Now, when you create an amplifier, and this is why it's important, when you create an amplifier, the 20 tokens that you had purchased to actually create that amplifier are burned. So it's not just that they're sent to a dead address, they're actually removed from circulation, and you can see that on Etherscan. It's reflected by the hour in the current supply. And so it's constantly actually creating this sort of net benefit to the protocol that the supply is constantly being reduced. So, yeah. I kind of droned on there a little bit, but just kind of wanted to be nice and thorough for you.
Yeah, no, I appreciate it. Again, I always think people come to the live streams to listen to the guests, not me. So when people start talking, I just let them go. So, and we have a lot of good questions from the audience. So I do want to get to a lot of these questions and keep them coming. We'll get through as many of these questions as we can. First, I'm kind of an engineer. Okay. So I like kind of one thing at a time. So could you maybe go through what the different products are? So I know like we've talked about the amplifiers and the transistors, and then there's the staking and then the fuse pools. Could you maybe kind of just go through one by one and talk about how you get into that specific product, if it's just buying some tokens, and how many tokens you need, what the potential return on each of those is, and then we'll kind of get to some audience questions after that.
Sounds great. Yeah, I'm happy to take just to kind of go through each of the products AmpliFi offers one by one, and who might be an ideal candidate for those, without providing any financial advice, of course. But
right.
So like if you just we'll go through the scenario of a spot holder, right, who still wants emissions. That the ideal, say someone buys 2 AmpliFi off Uniswap and they want to stake it. And then hopefully by the end of the year, they have 2.5 or something like that. And then they can either like buy more and stake more, or they can try to keep it there until they get a transistor, or like down the road, like 3 years down the road or more, maybe get an amplifier. Actually, that math's wrong. It would be a lot longer to get an amplifier off 2 tokens. But basically, the staking pool is really good for anyone who's holding a spot position. They're unsure if they want to amplify, but they do want emissions. And like the thing with the staking pool I really like is that whether you have 0.1 tokens or you have 1,000 AmpliFi tokens, you're welcome to participate. There's no token limitation on the staking pool. So just to recap that, anyone who is holding a spot position, staking's free. Like there's no protocol fees on staking. So if you're holding a spot position, why not stake? That's really who staking is targeting. Liquidity mining, and we've had some success with liquidity mining. Like you can check our liquidity is actually quite high for our market cap compared to a lot of projects, right? And that's partially due to the liquidity mining program. And the liquidity mining program has a slightly, I'm not exactly sure what it's at right now, but it targeted yield similar to the little bit more than the staking product, because there is the risk of impermanent loss when you provide liquidity to a pair on V2. So who liquidity mining is for is more who wants someone who may want to earn a little bit more than staking, but they're realizing the risk of impermanent loss, and they might think AmpliFi and USDC will trade in a similar range, so there won't be impermanent loss, right? So that might be the ideal target for the ideal candidate for the liquidity mining program. They want slightly higher emissions than stakers, and they're willing to run the risk of impermanent loss to get those emissions, right? And that helps on helps the protocol, like adding more liquidity to the pair. So if you look at like some other projects, like without naming names or anything, but you'll see some projects that have like $50 million market caps with 500K in liquidity, and like 1 or 2 big sells, and that project comes back down to earth pretty quickly. So with our liquidity, I think we have like 700K last I checked, liquidity at like a 2.5 cap. So liquidity is really important for like these like low cap coins, then for price stability too. Because if you take like some kind of like with my prior example, right? If you have a $50 million market cap coin with 500K or so in liquidity, 125K sell, like the thing comes down pretty, not down to earth completely, but a couple sells, and the price action looks pretty bad, right? So the liquidity mining is building up a nice liquid backing for us. And then on to transistors.
Okay, can I just clarify, just make sure we get the first two? So the easiest way to get involved with AmpliFi is you can just buy some of the tokens. Okay, so if you can buy the tokens, and then if that's all you want to do is just buy tokens, then on the staking page you can either just stake your AmpliFi tokens, and again, it's getting about 20% APY right now. Target is about 38%. Or you can do the liquidity mining, which will have a little bit higher APY, but you have the risk of impermanent loss. Okay, so those are the first two. Am I right about all that?
Spot on there. Spot on there.
Spot on. I think the one thing to add too is that the staking pool has 0 fees, right? So there's literally no downside for any user with any number of tokens to add to the staking pool. The sort of net benefit there to the protocol is quite simple. It's just kind of taking that extra step to kind of it's not really a lock. You're not really locking up tokens. It's kind of like softly locking up tokens, right? And so if the market is red that day, if you're normally on Uniswap and you might say, screw this, I'm just gonna dump the bag, get out while I can. It just sort of adds that extra step for people. And there's not really anything more to it than that. So they definitely have to just kind of give it that second thought of, hey, do I really want to do this? Do I really want to offload them? And if they do, so be it. Then they're able to take that yield with them. The plus side or the benefit of staking to the user is that not only is it 0 fee, but that you can compound the yield. So, you can claim the staking rewards and then put them right back into the staking pool. And so you're essentially kind of, it's not auto compounding, but it is compounding. And so there's that additional benefit. Whereas liquidity mining, I think it is rather difficult to calculate right now. We do have it on our sort of project management list to kind of add that up. But it is fluid. It is constantly changing, and it is, I think, substantially higher than the staking pool. But yeah, the risk of impermanent loss is something that a lot of people rightfully are not comfortable with taking, and it's certainly a little bit more complex than just pressing the stake button, right? You have to actually contribute an equal amount of USDC with an equal amount of AmpliFi, meaning that the values are the same at the moment. And so, again, not financial advice, but I would say if you are interested in liquidity mining, it would probably be better to get involved in the pool here than it would have when the token was at $200, right? Because then you would have been suffering from pretty severe and permanent loss. Whereas here, so long as the token stays relatively stable in this range, you're pretty much safeguarded from that. But again, DYOR.
Right. No, perfect. Okay, so we got those. Those are the two easiest ways to get on. So let's move on to the amplifiers.
Sounds great. So yeah, with an amplifier, that's our kind of flagship product, and that requires 20 AmpliFi tokens. You'd buy those on Uniswap, and when you create an amplifier, what you're doing to benefit the protocol is you're actually conducting a buyback and burn out of the liquidity pool, right? Removing tokens from circulation, you're buying them to create the amplifier and then burning them. So that entitles you to a stream of AmpliFi emissions, and it's been very effective so far at keeping supply. I think we launched with 121,373 tokens. I think we're down to 83,000 tokens right now on Etherscan. So the buyback and burn mechanism has been pretty effective to date at reducing supply and keeping price stability. But yeah, when you buy an amplifier, you're doing a buyback and burn out of the liquidity pool, and that entitles you to a stream of AmpliFi emissions.
Okay, perfect. And so that's backed by the Ethereum validators. Is that where the revenue is coming from?
So when you fuse, that's when you fuse the amplifier, that's when you're getting the yield from the Ethereum validators as well as yield amplification, which basically I can touch on that now or later, but I'll just briefly yield amplification shoots to outperform what just the typical validator would produce, because we accrue fees, and then we partnered with Polysynth to put some of that yield amplification capital from the yield amp wallet into vaults to earn yield on, and then we distribute that in addition to the validator revenue. So there's several forms of ETH revenue in the protocol that unlocks when you fuse your amplifier.
Okay, perfect. And Ben would like to know, and I do want to get to some audience questions too. They've been asking a lot, and I've just done my own questions. But when an amplifier is created and the tokens burned, does that actually advance the native token price?
I mean, it depends on how big the buy is, right? Like it does from a mathematical standpoint make the token more scarce, and it does when you are buying it have a positive price impact. But when you're doing like if someone bought 50K, it would have a bigger price impact than if someone bought one amplifier, you know? So it does overall have a net positive effect on price because you are buying it out of the liquidity pool, which when there's less AmpliFi relative to USDC in the liquidity pool, the price of AmpliFi is higher. So yeah, indirectly it does.
Yes. So people, when they buy, it will increase the price. And then if they're creating the amplifier, they can't, and the tokens are burned, they can't sell those tokens. So it creates the buy pressure, and then there's not the sell pressure that goes along with it. So.
Exactly. And on the, I don't know, Chief, if you already talked about this, but on the transistors, we actually introduced an option where the individual can reverse the transaction and get their tokens back. So with an amplifier, it is kind of this longer term commitment where you're saying, hey, you know what, I believe in the project. I think it'll be here in 6 months, or I think it'll be here in a year or so. You know, and you're willing to take that kind of risk. Whereas with a transistor, not only does it cost fewer tokens, but you might turn around in a few months and say, you know what, I'm having second thoughts. And so long as you haven't claimed your rewards yet at that point, you're able to actually reverse the transaction. So
okay.
Yeah.
Okay, very interesting. Okay, and then can we talk about the transistors?
Yeah, sure. So as Chief had mentioned a little while ago, transistors were kind of really just deployed in response to our recognition that the token price had sort of accelerated or increased at a much quicker rate than we were expecting. And so it became apparent to us that it would get to a certain point where the average DeFi user might not be able to afford that, especially in a bear market. You know, and we certainly can't predict how long a bear market is going to last. And so we said, okay, let's adapt. So we created a transistor, which instead of costing 20 tokens, it costs 6. And although you cannot lock a transistor the way you would an amplifier and a fuse pool to earn ETH rewards, the transistor actually has kind of an indirect benefit to the overall stability of the token, because instead of just burning all of those tokens, when you've created the transistor, actually some of those tokens are actually redirected to strengthening the liquidity pairing. So one of the tokens are swapped and liquefied for USDC, and another token is then paired against that and added into the liquidity pool. Of course, there is also a monthly fee on the transistors. It is less, but the monthly fee on the transistors also goes to not only funding the project for additional modules, but it is targeted primarily to actually continuing to accrue validators, both on ETH and across chains. So yeah, Chief, if there's anything you want to add on transistors, let me know.
No, I think you hit the nail on the head.
Okay, thank you. Thanks for summing all that up in my engineer brain, Ken. That makes all good sense to me now. I'm a list guy for sure. So some audience questions. Let's get to some of those. Do you want to talk about token price? How have things gone since launch? And we saw some big ups, and then we saw big down yesterday. Do you want to talk about just your thoughts on price and how things have been going since launch?
Yeah, I can cover that. So in terms of price action, I have no idea on any given day why it's up or why it's down. That's not 100% true. Like, I guess like when we have an AMA or a big announcement or something, like you generally see some positive price action following that. So what I would say in terms of that question, I don't know why it was down 15% yesterday, but I think we did have a very big run up from, I think our low was like $6 all the way to 204 or 205. So we had a pretty massive run up. Got a lot of exposure. And in some ways, I think we got the exposure a little bit, kind of as Chris had mentioned, a little bit too faster than we anticipated. So, like, again, not financial advice. I think in terms of price action, this is just kind of a pullback or a corrective period when, like on the macro, like there's a lot of uncertainty at a macro level. But I think as we develop the rest of the roadmap, a lot of that price action will return. In particular around like the vault strategies and perps and whatnot. So I don't think short-term price action I'm too worried about. If I was a user, what I kind of like to look at is how active is the team? Are they still committed to the project? And if the answer to those is yes, and you like the product, I think it's just a corrective period. You know, the team's still here, team's still working, and we really don't control price action. All we control is showing up every day and doing our best on the marketing, BD, and on like the development front, innovating on new modules, which I wish I could touch on here. We have a pretty cool implementation coming, hopefully before December 31st, that I'm really excited about. That it's a little bit maybe a little out of line with our roadmap. I think we originally had it scheduled in for 2023, but we have some really cool stuff coming down that I believe will turn the price action around. Not financial advice, but I again just want to relay price action. The team doesn't control. All we control is showing up every day, and I think we've done that, and we'll continue to do that.
Yeah, the other thing that I'd like to add to is that there was a kind of a brief period, probably about a month long or so, where AmpliFi, I guess, it was sort of the first mover in this kind of concept of ETH post-merge validator acquisition projects. And I think one of the areas that people got very hung up on is this sort of confusion or mistakenly thinking that AmpliFi is just a validator project. That's not the case at all. AmpliFi is designed to be a perpetual yield project fueled by organic or external yield. Validator acquisition was simply the newest and safest and kind of most untapped mechanism of doing so at the moment. And so we figured, okay, hey, let's capitalize on this narrative, right? And we did. The issue or the area where people, I think, began to become a little confused is they see a yield on an ETH validator hovering around 3.5 to 4.5%, and they think, wait a second, that's garbage, right? Like, why would I do that? And our answer to that is, look, the validators are merely a Lego or merely a building block in the creation of an entire project built around real yield, right? And so if I'm looking at my computer's keyboard right now, I guess this would be kind of a good analogy. It's like if I'm only looking at the enter button or the shift button, and that's what validator acquisition is. I'm saying, hey, wait a second, this isn't a keyboard. There's only an enter button. Well, okay, but you're not zooming out and understanding how all of these Legos and puzzle pieces fit together. The idea is really to create what you might consider a suite or an ecosystem or a portfolio of products, which are centered around generating TVL and volume for the protocol itself, which end up kind of acting as a backing mechanism for the native token, right? And so essentially it's that as each of these modules or advancements are introduced, and the more partnerships that we create, and we have another one that we're finalizing right now, which I'm extremely excited about, a project much larger than we are. It makes it more and more apparent to individuals that this is not a Ponzi scheme. It's not a pyramid scheme. It actually is a real mechanism by which to actually earn, external yield. And so, providing yield on the native token is, there was definitely some confusion that people had. It's like, okay, wait a second, you're saying a validator is going to do 4.5%, and yet, you have this native token claiming to do 159%, right? And so that goes back to this sort of deleveraging or de-risking aspect that I was touching upon at the beginning of the conversation, which is, that native yield will be scaled back as more and more and more modules are implemented. And so I wouldn't say it's going to be like a one-to-one basis, but you will most likely see continued reductions in yield as the sort of what you might call blue chip functions of the project continue to be introduced. And it looks like our first blue chip implementation, so to speak, will be going live rather in December. So we're extremely excited for that. I can't share too much on it. I think we're going to be able to share a lot more on it over the next coming weeks as we really finalize some of the additional details on it and how the tokenomics around it are going to be fully structured. But yeah, so the long and short of it is we've recognized that there is this disconnect from what people see on the outside before they're involved in the project versus what we know or what the community knows once they're already involved in the project. So what we've done is we've said, okay, we've looked at price action. We see that there is this kind of marketing disconnect. And so what we're in the middle of right now is revamping the entire website. We're having an entirely new website created, which is going to have very fundamentally different approaches in conveying the marketing message. And we are working with a variety of content creators and video designers to actually make kind of in-depth videos, some of which are long and some of which are very short, to give a very clear overview and explanation of what the protocol is and what the future of it is going to look like.
Awesome. Yeah, it sounds like maybe we need to do another AMA here upcoming shortly. And I'd love to be part of maybe helping make some of those videos or anything if you need that. So
we'd love that, of course.
Yeah, just a little bit of feedback. Just I think from the outside, yeah, it seems kind of confusing, like just the ecosystem and all. People are used to like there's one thing going on, and then in here there's a few. And when you explain it, it's really not that complicated, but from the outside, it seems kind of complicated.
Right. And the other thing to even make matters more confusing, perhaps not really, I guess it's not really any one individual's fault. But when the website actually went live and when the DApp went live, we didn't actually release the roadmap for another, I guess, somewhere probably about 45 days or so. So, because we didn't want to like kind of showcase everything right out of the gate, and reveal the entire project all at once. We like to roll things out and kind of a step-by-step, more organized manner. And so the website at present, although the DApp has been updated over time, and the website is actually on its second revision. Technically it's third, I guess, by now. But it has not been updated from the landing page side to reflect the changes not even the changes, but what the roadmap is actually in itself. So it's definitely been a long time coming. I know in crypto, when I say a long time coming, I really mean like 30 days. It can feel like years, but yeah, so those things are under development. And we think with some sort of creative marketing, not deceptive marketing, but creative in the sense of our recognition that, okay, hey, people are definitely having a bit of difficulty understanding this, so we need to boil it down for them. So once we're able to do that, and this new variation of the site goes live over the next couple of weeks, I think that's going to help people out a lot.
Yep, absolutely. And two things I want to say, just kind of to audience, people listening. First off, you don't have to get in further than you understand. So again, the easiest, you can just buy the tokens and stake them. Okay, that's not very complicated. Yeah, and then you can kind of, as you learn more about the ecosystem, you can say, oh, okay, I do want to get an amplifier. I do want to get a transistor. And then as more products come out, but people sometimes think, oh, I have to understand everything before I get in. And just understand what you understand and then get into what you understand is kind of what I tell people. And I also want to make a comment too about token price. So again, if you're wanting to get in, you actually want the token price to be down. And psychologically, we're like, no, we want it to be way, way high. But if you're wanting to get in, you actually want it to be as low as it can be when you're getting in. So you don't actually, this is actually the kind of chart that I would prefer to get into because you're getting in at a discount. But I think some people are concerned, they've seen so many projects where the token starts going down and it just never stops and it ends up at zero. What would you say to someone who's concerned? They look at the chart and they say, hey, that's what's going to happen. What would you say to someone who's concerned about that?
Yeah, sure. So the variety, or I shouldn't say the variety, the majority rather of the largest holders have their tokens in amplifiers, right? And so anytime an individual says, oh, I've lost confidence in the project, and they have to then claim those rewards, and then they're subject to decay. So every single time that individual claims, and that any individual claims, they're being kind of massacred after a while by decay, right? And the decay is structured kind of the way that we've described it in the past is almost like a rental car business. You decide with a friend or so that you guys are gonna purchase a fleet of vehicles and you're gonna rent them out. Maybe you're gonna rent them out to enterprise. You're gonna set up an account on eToro. Maybe you're gonna invest in a few self-driving Teslas, whatever it may be. Well, when the vehicles are brand new, you're able to command a premium on those. They're new, they're shiny. People want to be seen in them. They look flashy, yada, yada, yada. There's no mechanical issues, so on and so forth. You're able to get a lot of money right at the outset for those. However, you fast forward a few years, you begin to accrue some wear and tear on the vehicle. Maybe there's some cosmetic damage. There's some mechanical issues going on. And suddenly, after, a few thousand miles or a few tens of thousands of miles, the car isn't commanding the same premium that it used to be. Instead of being brand new, well, now it's a few years old. The suspension's not as tight as it used to be. And there's newer and better products out there. So, that is, in a way, you're facing decay now, right? You're facing decay in the value or in the premium that you're able to command on the vehicle. And so amplifiers work the same way. When they're new, and they can, I guess, theoretically remain new indefinitely. I mean, because you never actually have to claim for years if you chose not to, and then you'll not be hit with any type of decay fee for a variety or for a number of years. But if you decide, hey, I'm going to claim every week, you are going to be subject to decay. And so the larger holders that decide, hey, this isn't for me anymore, they're being decayed, right? And so not only, yes, the value is going down on the token as they're selling, right? As they're removing USDC from the liquidity pool and instead swapping it out with more native tokens that are now entering the pool. But the impact that they have on the protocol every single time they're selling is actually decreasing. And this happens across every single holder who has one of these products. There's not really much that you can do about a spot holder. However, if you look at our distribution on Etherscan, there's not a single holder that has over like 1.9 or 2%. We would consider the spot distribution to be quite great. There is a venture capital company who had, or who has still immense confidence in the project. They spot purchased about $50,000 worth of tokens, probably in the third or fourth week after launch. And they do hold spot. They have it across 3 different wallets. It's held in secure Fireblocks wallets. They continue to have immense trust and trust in the project that it is going to grow. We've had many discussions with these people. They've offered a helping hand many times with a variety of things that we need. And they've never expressed really any doubt or lack of confidence in our ability to deliver on what we're, offering and claiming to be able to deliver. I think, again, there is that risk with any project that spot holders will dump. The intent here seems to be the thing that still so many people miss, is that the intent is to create a project that provides real external yield. so that the backing of the native token, or that the price of the native token is backed by the value or the revenue that the protocol actually generates. And so that means, of course, at the outset, where we are here now, there is a higher risk for, being early, right? The 99.7% of tokens that are launched on, Uniswap or PancakeSwap are blatant rug pulls. If you are one of those people who wants what you might consider a highly safe project, well, then you might wait till it's on Coinbase or Binance US or Uphold or something like that. That is simply the risk that an individual has to take if they're looking to enter into a micro cap or a nano cap position. So there's really not much that we can do about individual holders selling. However, it is not a Ponzi-like project that, I'll just say, like Strongblock, that was completely dependent on people compounding rewards so that they never actually had to be paid out and sold into the liquidity pool. And that was truly a house of cards, right? And so once it clicked in people's heads, hey, wait a second, there's actually no value to these tokens. There's no value underlying these tokens. That's when the largest holders said, you know what, screw it, I'm out. This project is literally the antidote for that. So this is not the kind of project that will enter a death spiral and then die. Could the project shoot up, or could the token shoot up to $400 or shoot down to $6 or $3 or go up to $1,000 or $5,000? Yes, all of these things are possible. The reality is, however, that it won't make any sense for the protocol or for the native token to be trading at, let's say, $2 or $3 or $6 for too long, because it'll at a certain point just take a quick calculation to look at the actual external revenue that's coming in and compare that against what the actual value of the native token is, and people will realize, okay, hey, there may be some sort of arbitrage opportunity here. So we do have a lot of built-in risk management mechanisms, and I think the strongest built-in risk management mechanism is simply the intent to do exactly what we're doing, which is provide external yield, right? The more that you can deleverage the native token by giving it real backing value through a pool that's outside of the native project itself, meaning that so your holders aren't just trading against each other. That is the safest way to deleverage a protocol or to de-risk a protocol. That's exactly what we're doing. You will see a variety over time. You will see a variety of lower risk products being offered to AmpliFi holders, as well as higher risk products to AmpliFi holders. So instead of, let's say, earning 3.5 to 4.5% on a validator, there will be opportunities to, let's just say something like liquid staking, where you're able to loop, or you're able to essentially use a looping strategy to kind of lever staking yield on liquid staking and things like that. So, but again, it's all going to be about risk tolerance. So, the primary intent is that each of these external revenue generating modules all funnel value back to the native token. That's why it can't go to zero. Well, I can't say can't, but should not go to zero.
Okay. No, I think that's a good answer to that question. So let me get to some of these audience questions. And audience, I'm sorry, I've been ignoring you. I just had my own questions and I get to pick what's asked. So I'm so sorry, but we'll try to get to some of these now. So some people have been noticing the 90,000 AmpliFi supply. I take it that's probably the rewards pool. Do you want to just clarify that?
Yeah.
Sorry, go ahead, Chief.
Yeah, I don't know where they pulled the 90,000 supply that's not circulating. I think it should be closer to, like, last I checked, the rewards pool was like 38, I want to say.
Yeah, probably 37.9 now. 90,000 is, I don't know where that number's from. The total supply right now, I want to say, is about 88,000 or 89,000 or so, somewhere right around there. It could even be 82,000, but it's in the 80s. The rewards pool should have about 37.9. The staking pool, I want to say, might have what is it, Chief? 10 or 5, 3,000, whatever it might be. The highest holder has 1.9% at the moment. The rest of them are all smart contracts. There's no there's no like emissions that the team is getting that we're, you know, like dumping on anyone's head or anything like that. It's all pretty transparent. I think there is still just some confusion just in terms of like crypto. Oh, did we lose him? Looks like we lost him.
I think we lost him.
Oh no.
Can we take the audience questions while he...
I'm back. My internet, Airbnb, you know, that's what you
I was like, I guess he lost interest. He didn't want to hear it anymore.
I'm done with this AMA. You guys finish it up on your own. No. I'm so sorry. Also, like what always happens is we have this Airbnb internet, and then the kids start playing Minecraft or something, and then, you know, take all the bandwidth. So I got to go lay the law down on them sometimes.
Yes, sir.
But Ryan would like to know, can you talk about what you're most excited about on the current roadmap that will drive revenue? What new products, or what are you guys most excited about on the roadmap?
I feel like what I'm most excited about changes every week. You know, you just end up learning more about what the real possibilities out there are. You know, I think for me, I'm probably most excited about, I know it's kind of simplistic, and Chiefs is probably quite a bit more interesting, but I really like the idea of cross-chain validator acquisition. Some of them provide a substantially higher yield than what you're able to earn on ETH mainnet. And so not only are you kind of taking or reducing the risk or minimizing the risk of exposure to the protocol if kind of like ETH's market share as the largest smart contract platform in the world, if that were to be kind of like dethroned. But we're also able to, you know, use some of these other chains that, let's just say another protocol like Polkadot is offering, you know, 15% yield instead of 3.5 or 4.5. Well, we're able to set up that validator on that chain, and then we're able to liquefy it and bridge that back over to ETH, you know, and pay out the holders. So that is something that I'm pretty excited about, because although it sounds relatively simple and straightforward, it actually gives us quite a few opportunities to partner up with some blockchains out there. And, you know, depending on the blockchain that you're actually partnering with, some of them have grants, some of them have programs to actually kind of incentivize adoption and real world use of the protocol, and even setting up validators themselves. And so, you know, we tend to think that obviously, of course, our primary exposure right now is on ETH, because it's an ETH project with ETH validators, right? So, you know, as we end up, you know, moving to different chains to do different things and source yield from other chains, or even add liquidity to other chains in certain circumstances, we're actually exposing ourselves to an entirely new audience that probably has never even heard of the project. You know, and given that there's so many, there really is an abundance of popular chains out there now. So in my view, I think even from like an omnipresence or a marketing perspective, it really adds so much potential there.
Yeah, totally agree. And a lot of these other chains too, they kind of become maxis of that chain. So like the AVAX people don't go do anything off of AVAX, and there's a lot of that. So I think you're totally right. As you start getting on other chains, that'll be a whole new audience for you for sure. And then I know you mentioned partnerships, but do you want to talk specifically about what partnerships you guys have? And just a soft nudge on, can you tell us any more about some of these upcoming partnerships?
So the partnerships we have to date, we have partnered with Yieldification, and they listed an AmpliFi perpetual that you could put up AmpliFi as collateral and trade go long or short on AmpliFi on Yieldification. We recently partnered with a privacy ecosystem called Spillways, and our contracts are going to be whitelisted for collateral in their ecosystem. And what their ecosystem essentially, it's like a Tornado Cash with a real yield component, and like they will like set up private escrow and things along that nature for us, so people can have kind of that anonymity if they so choose while using AmpliFi. And then we also partnered with Polysynth, and they're a pretty high horsepower, intellectual horsepower group of people. They're backed by the co-founders of Polygon. and Jump Capital. So they will. We partner with them around yield amplification for selling OTM covered calls on ETH to help boost yield. And that strategy for them is getting like a 12 to 18% annualized rate of return. And then they also have some other vaults that are like delta neutral, like 90% downside capital protection. And then one that really caught my attention, which was a liquid staking vault, which is like, you know how on like ETH you can like liquid stake and get like ST ETH or something like that, like a 1-to-1 redeemable derivative or whatnot. So what they're doing actually over on Matic is liquid staking Matic to get the validator returns, and then selling covered calls on the liquid version, so they can redeem more underlying Matic that's staked than just staking alone. So they're a really intelligent bunch, and it's been a pleasure working with all of our partners so far. And in terms of leaking what's in the future to come, Chris, I don't know how much you want to say in terms of partnerships.
Yeah, I think I can kind of dance around a little bit, and instead of naming names, one of the things that we've been looking into has to do with OTC swaps, and one more has to do with cross-chain swaps.
Yep.
Both of those would, hypothetically, theoretically, be built into the protocol and directing fees to amplifier holders. Let's see what else. There's a much larger company that we'd be partnering with to do something around bonds. We've intentionally held off on releasing bonds for a little while until the market cap increases sizably. And because we were already able to raise enough liquid capital for our first exchange listing. I think that's probably all that we can share at the moment, though.
Okay. All right. Well, hey, we got a little bit out of you. You know, that's what I like to squeeze some alpha out, you know, when I can, for sure. All right. Well, let's do this last question here, and then we'll kind of wrap things up. Terrell Donald would like to know what protections you guys have for the project. He's tired of members selling off and killing good projects. So kind of, we talked a little bit about this already, but maybe just some final words of encouragement, not financial advice, but encouraging words for Terrell.
Yeah. So this is my take on it. In like, the team is here for we wouldn't have put together a 5-year roadmap if we intended to like dump the token and and we wouldn't have like with some of our tokens, like we created amplifiers, you know, we wouldn't do that if we had the intention of just selling off and killing the project. And I think like we've shown since V1, we had with V1, I think we had like 3 million volume the first day. And we were able to get like the worth of like 4 validators in Ethereum. And since we delayed, we had to do the V2, right? Like we just put all of those into liquidity. That's kind of also why we have such a thick liquidity pool. So I think like we've shown transparency from day one, but I like outside of the just, oh, trust us, we're good guys. Like all like the main wallets are like operations wallets and things like that are protected by a multi-sig. So there is like some actual technical protection outside of a just trust me, so that like the treasury and ops budget won't get drained. And in terms of like native token sell off, like you can check the distribution on chain too. Like even, and we set it up this way that even if one member did say, okay, like I'm going rogue or whatever, which wouldn't happen, they couldn't really impact the price. Like it wouldn't and that's kind of ties back into the thick liquidity, right? Like no one on the team, and even like the entirety of the team doesn't have enough tokens to sell through liquidity. So I understand your concerns there. And I'm also tired of teams selling off and killing good projects. So we don't want to be one of those, and we won't be one of them. And I think we've built a lot of trust with our community so far. If you check in the Telegram, that they could vouch for our credibility and transparency.
Yeah, I think the just a final closing thought on that too is in V1, we structured the tokenomics I guess you would say more similarly to how a VC would structure the tokenomics, in such not in terms of paying ourselves some salary, but rather in terms of allocating a certain percentage of supply for things that you would need in the future. For example, CEX listings where you would need a certain quantity or allocation of tokens. Moving cross chain where you have an intent to ensure that the ratios are equal between chains. There's even using a percentage of allocation to incentivize certain partnerships with larger projects. Now, even though these were things that were on our mind, given that we're in a bear market, we realized pretty quickly that the community did not like that. They did not like that the team effectively had what you might consider supply control. And so what we did from V1 to V2 is pretty much all of those tokens that we had set aside for what you might consider other uses or future use. We simply deprecated those. We just eliminated those tokens, right? And so team control, if you will, of the supply went from like 85%, which again, it doesn't sound good, but people don't they don't. I think the average crypto user doesn't necessarily understand that those tokens were not allocated to us to be sold. They were allocated because certain things require a certain number of tokens. And then of course those tokens have to be paired against an equal number of stable coins or an equal number or an equal value rather of ETH. So of course, people didn't really seem to understand that. And so we said, okay, you know what, let's just, yes, it will be more difficult for us to be able to do these things in the future, but we'll at least get the community to understand that, this is not a scam. And so, yeah, we went from having about 85% to, maybe 5% across the entire team. And those are half, they're locked up in validator or in amplifiers. They're in the staking pool. Like, we're not, you could pretty much check the chain. Like there's no original holder that was airdropped from the team side that has been dumping tokens. The entirety of the team that we've sold off collectively is just around $30,000 for 7 people over the last 90 something days. I mean, it's like we don't even pay ourselves, and we don't have an intent to pay ourselves for quite a while until we determine that there's enough revenue in the treasury and that there's enough external yield being generated that the protocol can sustain it, right? So this is, for us, it's a long-term project. Certainly it's of course kind of a live action experiment, but we're not here to capitalize on users' capital. We're here to see if the crypto community has enough faith in the concept of a perpetual yield protocol that actually has true external backing.
Absolutely. Okay. Well, very cool. I think we'll go ahead and wrap up there. Again, the replay of this, if you missed any of the info, will be available right when I'm done here, and I'll get the chapters put in so you can kind of skip around and just decide what answers you want to hear about. I want to first let people know, if you want to get involved, okay, the best way to get involved is you can just buy some of the tokens, okay? And then if you're confused by some of the stuff being offered, just go in and you can stake. You can start doing some of the liquidity pool mining. You guys are familiar with that stuff. If you want to get in a little further, it's 20 tokens to buy an amplifier or to create an amplifier, 6 tokens to create a transistor, and then you can look into, fusing those for longer, and then you get higher return, those types of things. But one of the things I want everyone to do is just go jump in the Discord, jump in the Telegram, and just kind of get to know the team better. Again, if you're, what's going to happen? Am I going to get rug pulled and things like that? Hop in. Do you guys have a Discord or just a Telegram?
We do have a Discord. We're more active in the Telegram, but
okay.
We as we roll out kind of the more blue chip implementations, we want to really get the Discord presence growing as well. Cause I know there's when you have Telegram, you have a certain audience, and Discord, you have a certain audience. So we want to basically be able to have an open community in both those. And I think right now it's mainly Telegram, but as we grow and transition into a larger project with more modules, the Discord, we plan to really kind of beef up and be more active in there.
Yeah, as the project grows, Telegram becomes kind of unusable at a certain point, you know, when you hit a certain number of users. So definitely get you there. But yeah, hop into the Telegram and the Discord and just get to know the team. And then that's the ways that you can get involved. So as we wrap up here, audience, I just want to thank you guys for hopping on, for putting up with my technical difficulties on this live stream, you know, my subpar audio and all the things that make just these live streams so wonderful. Please hit like on your way out. And then AmpliFi team, thank you guys for your flexibility with our scheduling. And just thanks for coming on and talking about your project.
Yeah,
Thank you for having us.
Yeah, no, it's been a blast. And I've learned a ton. And I think I just love at the end of these AMAs, like I look through the website and everything, but there's just nothing captures quite the vision and the roadmap and all those things than just talking to the team. So I appreciate you guys hopping on.
Yeah, no, absolutely, man. Absolutely. And it's been a pleasure to be on here. And I just want to say to the community and some of your audience that tuned in to listen, Chris and I, or Froggy and I, are pretty much available in the Telegram throughout the day. So if you were a little shy, maybe didn't want to come on and ask questions on a live AMA format, feel free to ping me under the Amplifier or Chief Alchemist. Again, as I said earlier, don't know why I jumped on this one, but yeah, just feel free to ping us if anything you have any questions, and we're pretty around, open and transparent, and hope to see everyone in the Telegram.
Absolutely.
Awesome. Well, thanks everybody, and I appreciate everybody. Appreciate all your time, and hope everybody has a great rest of the day and enjoy the markets right now. I just checked the markets, and it's like, whoa! All I need to do is go out of town, and then everything pops up. There you go. So yeah, everybody enjoy that, and have a great rest of your day. Thanks.
All right.
Take care,
Thanks.
James.
Bye-bye.